I wonder if there's any questions from the floor as we're moving on to the sort of more informal session. Is there anyone? I don't think I've got a raise hand function, but anyone have any questions?
One of the things about school streets in the Netherlands, there's been a couple of comments, is that in my understanding, there are almost no fences around school playgrounds in the Netherlands. The street in parts of, well, you mentioned Rotterdam and Amsterdam and many others, it can use some of the street space. And this is a dramatically different attitude towards children, of course, than we've had traditionally in our country, where they are so terrifying that they need to be behind 2-meter brick walls with razor wire on top. So if this is an opportunity of changing some of our social attitudes towards children and friendship and openness, I think it'd be a great thing.
I agree, and I think it comes back to a really heartening point about the DFT instruction to focus primarily and firstly on low traffic neighborhoods and creating those environments, because I think using that network approach and creating these low traffic neighborhoods, it really gives us opportunity to tie in schools and route to schools as part of that sort of network establishment, and then actually put in the conditions where children and adults can play out on the street, as we were seeing in the last few weeks.
Christopher, can I put a question in,
please?
Yeah, all this is focused. I think Daniel might have mentioned it, but most of it's focused on urban cities or big towns. One of the things that I've been working in West Sussex on issues, and West Sussex is the highway authority, and the district councils are the planning authorities. And the district councils may want to do things, but they're not the highway authority. And there's this real mismatch in governance between the ones who might want to do things at a local level and the ones who can do things. And the Shire counties tend to be more reticent, more engineering led, and just generally obviously bigger. I won't even get into the politics of it, and less enthusiastic. So there is a real issue about how we achieve things here. I'm not asking for any answers, but I just think it needs an acknowledgement that the structural issues to achieve, or the structural barriers to achieving things, are often more overwhelming than any of the technical issues.
I completely agree. I thought you were going to give us some answers then, rather than
no. I wish I could, but I was wondering. But it hasn't been acknowledged. I think everything's focused on London and Glasgow and all these big unitaries, which have the powers and they can effectively do things. And it's trying to get that message across that there are lots of people who want to do things, and somehow it doesn't seem to, even in the places where people want to, it doesn't happen for various sort of momentum-led. Sorry, not momentum as in the political thing, but just sheer inertia of the structure. And if there's any sort of suggestions about how to deal with that, it'd be great to hear.
I'll tell you what I've been doing, Mark.
You're in Hertfordshire, so there you go.
Yeah, I'm absolutely in Hertfordshire, and I'm normally away a lot of the time, so I just kind of let it rot. But because I've spent so much time here over the last few months, I've been trying to get on top of it and working with the council. And really, it was a case of going to see Herts Highways, Herts County councillors, Harpenden councillors, Harpenden technical people, St Albans Council from both sides, the Conservatives ones in Harpenden, the Liberal Democrats in that. Yeah, you just kind of got to see them all. I've been spread betting, and when they did do the work the other week, I was like, who do I thank? I'll just copy in the whole lot on it, and it does get a little bit ridiculous. And yeah, as soon as you start unpicking it, there's hatred across the lines. But I think everybody, at the moment at least, is sharing a bit of a common passion to do something about the emergency we're in. So we're hoping some of the vindictiveness at the kind of county level is gone. And I've been getting really positive feedback from all those councils, which I've never had before, and any nonsense I come up with.
When you do in other bits of Hertfordshire, if you speak to people from Bishop Stortford, I don't think they have the same message. So
we don't talk to them.
I just to pick up on that point, Mark, which I think is really, really interesting, and to relate it back to Poynton, because the reason why Poynton got delivered was because of the local councillor. Howard Murray was the driving force behind that project, and it was his sort of bloody-mindedness that forced through that change, and he was the one that sort of took the political risk, staked his political capital on making that change. So local leadership can make a significant difference. And I think that's, given how far he was prepared to go, because Poynton in 2012, well, it was delivered in 2012, so it was probably conceived in 2009. So, you're talking about 11 years ago. It was pretty avant-garde to think that you could deal with that environment in that way at that time. And he had convinced himself that that was the right answer. And he then went about convincing everybody else that stood in his way. So, you do need to rely in those instances on local leadership to make that sort of difference.
Just in terms of the DFT letters that have been banding around, I think to the panel, as far as I understand it, if people don't take action at the moment, the DFT have said they might come and take action for them. Is that right? Is that my understanding? Well, that is my understanding.
Yeah, I've been saying that a lot, Chris, to people, saying, well, yeah, I have my whole what's the cost of doing nothing? And if you don't do anything and more cars start coming and you get increased congestion, there's nothing you can do about it apart from wait to see if your R rating goes up and the government's going to move in and do it for you. It's like it really doesn't give you any options as a local politician. Whereas if you do something now, with people saying that they want to cycle and they want to walk around, you put that in now, then at least you can say to people when there is congestion and people going back, please will use the more efficient way of getting around. Can you walk? Can you cycle? Can you save the NHS? All those messages that can come in. And then if they don't do it, then you've got something to do. You can pull the route out and say, at least you tried. Because that's fundamentally what it comes down to. And Chris Boardman says that a lot, really. You're not even going to try. Give it a go. And if you don't do anything, you sit back. The great inquest that happens after this thing and the spiral and congestion and poor air quality and the direct link of that to the emergency situation we're in is not going to look good on these people who've done nothing. So
be on the wrong side of history.
There's various tactics you use. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there any...
Rob Lloyd-Smith here. Hello.
Hi.
Robert's giving me a nudge because I mentioned something in the chat.
Right.
And it was that Hailsham in East Sussex are preparing a neighbourhood plan on the basis of a 10-minute town. So you can have your 15-minute city, but they're going to have a 10-minute town concept. And that is basically, if you can't walk it in 10 minutes or cycle it in 10 minutes, then you can get on public transport and get there in 10 minutes. So I thought that was an interesting thing. But Historic England are surprisingly now an investor in public realm and highways and things. We are paying for quite a lot of public realm works in a 68 town centres under a scheme I'm not allowed to name at the moment. A lot of those are going to be, and Poynton, which has been mentioned, is one of the case studies highlighted in our Streets for All manual for investing in historic town centre public realm schemes. And so that should be informing what we spend our money on in those 68 town centres. So it should, although it may be feeling like things take a long time, we deal with stuff that takes 200 years to evolve. So, hopefully it's faster than that. There you go.
Absolutely, yeah. But the idea of a 10-minute town sounds very interesting. I think it's it all comes back down to that creating the conditions where people feel comfortable doing so. And I think that's a huge part of the government advice at the moment with low traffic neighbourhoods. And I think definitely looking at the guidance that's going to be launched by this sort of emerging collective, as well as all the Living Streets guidance. I think it's a great platform for which to take this opportunity we have at the moment.
Yeah, I think we'd love to be involved in the emerging collective as well.
It's not a closed group. Everyone's welcome.
Thanks.
I think if there's no further questions, I'm minded to sort of draw the formal part of the evening to a close. We're sort of losing people, and there's not sort of any more questions unless anyone wants a last word. I think there's sort of the last word from me. I think is building on Brian's point that doing nothing is certainly not an option at the moment, and we've got a huge mandate to act and a huge need to act, and we've got a lot of work to do. So hopefully the emerging document, which should be out soon from the collective, is a useful document. We want it to be a live document, and we want your opinion on it, and we want you to get involved. So whatever we can do as the Urban Design Group and this collective, we're very happy to get involved and help you with that. just closing down. Then I think please do look at the UDG events page regularly. I think it's there's a lot of events at the moment. There's a weekly events like this, and then also more formal. I call them Cowcross Street events, just because makes me reminisce about being in Cowcross Street with the carpet on the wall. And also, if you don't want to miss a thing, I'd definitely encourage you to join the UDG as a member, and then you get the excellent weekly newsletter from Robert Huxford, which is basically the best in the business. So I would definitely encourage you to join the membership of the UDG to not miss out on a thing.